Those Freedom of Information Act requests never let up. Agencies keep getting record numbers of them. Well, now they have a steep increase in FOIA backlogs across government. And members of a federal advisory committee say, surprise, agencies need more staff and training to deal with this onslaught of records requests. Federal News Network's Justin Doubleday joins me with the latest. And give us the numbers, FOIA requests. They never really let up in the 30 years I've been following them.
Yeah, the numbers today are staggering. Agencies are now receiving more than 1 million FOIA requests every year. The Justice Department reported that agencies received just over 1.1 million FOIA requests in fiscal 2023. That's nearly a 30% increase over 2022. To their credit, agencies also processed a record 1.12 million requests last year, but these FOIA backlogs continue to rise. In 2012, the total federal backlog was at about 71,000 cases, and in the past year, it is now above 206,000 cases that are in that backlog that have been sitting there for longer than 20 days. They're seeing this record number of FOIA requests, and the backlogs continue to rise here in 2023.
So the backlog essentially has tripled.
That's right. Yeah, it's essentially has tripled over the last decade.
All right, and it's all about staffing? Is that just a matter of throughput? People can only do so many a day.
It's not necessarily all about staffing, but what's become clear is that that's one of the biggest problems, perhaps. The FOIA Advisory Committee is finalizing a report on FOIA staffing, and to help feed this report, they conducted a survey of FOIA professionals across government last year, and just over 50% of them said their biggest problem is the need for more staff. Paul Chalmers is Deputy General Counsel at the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, a member of the FOIA Advisory Committee.
The backlog of FOIA requests has been increasing year over year for quite some time as the number of requests increase and the complexity of requests increases. And one of the things that we heard from many agencies was that they simply aren't able to fill the FOIA positions that they have available to them.
And by the way, Justin, who else is on the FOIA Advisory Committee and who do they advise to?
Yeah, the FOIA Advisory Committee is made up of employees at federal agencies who deal with FOIA issues, and they report to the Archivist of the United States. And that was Chalmers speaking just on March 5th, Tuesday, March 5th, at their monthly meeting.
Got it. And so they suggest what for agencies to do about the staffing shortage, because unless there's budgeted positions, they're not going to get more bodies.
Yeah, that's right. You know, one of the big recommendations in this draft report that they're finalizing is that the Office of Personnel Management add the Government Information Specialist job series to the direct hiring authority list. These GIS specialists are the most prevalent folks within FOIA offices. One of the things that the committee found is that FOIA offices face challenges in retaining qualified staff. And then when they have open positions, it takes many, many months for them to fill those open positions, going through the normal competitive hiring process. And as these increases in requests come in, they're having problems just keeping up with the staffing needs that they have. So adding the GIS series to the direct hire list would notionally allow these agencies to hire a lot faster. OPM has designated this authority for positions ranging from cybersecurity to nurses and lawyers, these high demand series. And now the advisory committee is saying FOIA professionals should be among those as well.
And we should point out, too, I think it's accurate to say this is not something where you put on roller skates and go fetch papers out of a file cabinet and give it to people. There's judgment involved over privacy matters, what is a record that can be released, what has to remain secret. It's not a boilerplate type of process where you get the request in and you fetch up the papers, correct?
That's right. You have to have a steep background in policy, and then increasingly technology is a big piece of this as well. You need to have a IT background almost to understand how to pull different electronic records requests, how to parse through those electronic records depending on the format. So it's becoming a more complex job by the day.
What else does the committee say for improving the staffing levels? I mean, yeah, direct hiring authority, but you have to have people that want to come and do the job, I suppose.
Yeah, well, one of the things they mentioned is that there are folks who are interested, who apply to these positions, and then they wait for many, many months because of the normal competitive hiring process, and then they find something else and decide to go with that instead of going with the FOIA job. And so in addition to direct hiring authority, The advisory committee is also considering a recommendation to have agencies participate in a talent pool. OPM has recently established these talent pools that allow job seekers to apply for a job once and then be considered for selection by multiple agencies for the same type of job. And it also obviously helps agencies by creating a pool of candidates who have already been assessed and found to be eligible for a certain type of job within government. So that's another big one that the advisory committee feels could improve FOIA hiring.
Outside of hiring, is there something they can do to the FOIA process? For example, pre-staging things for the public to download themselves if it's something that's requested frequently and is okay to give out, then just say 5,000 other people have asked for this. Here it is. Download it.
I think you're referring to something called proactive disclosure, which is something the Justice Department's Office of Information Policy has told agencies to really emphasize as they're dealing with records. And yeah, like you said, having 50 different FOIA requests for the same record, they should probably just post that record, if it's been approved to be released, on their website. But another big draft recommendation the committee is developing now is to require non-FOIA staff across government to do FOIA training. So there's a lot of different people who are involved in a FOIA requests, and really it just starts with a FOIA professional who then have to reach out to a division or an office within an agency, and those people there don't necessarily just dedicate their whole jobs to FOIA, but perhaps they need some FOIA training. And so one of the recommendations here, or draft recommendations right now, is to have the Justice Department require this training across government. Now, obviously, whenever you deal with requirements for training that go across more than 2 million employees, that's something that they're going to have to weigh pretty heavily. So they're still developing that recommendation, fine-tuning it, but that's something to watch going forward.
It seems like if the largest agencies and departments trained 100 new people on how to pull a FOIA, and they said to each one of those people across the government, all right, you've got 3 to do this month or something, they would probably get rid of the backlog in a couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you hear a lot, too, within these discussions is there needs to be just more leadership focus and accountability on FOIA. I mean, obviously senior leaders across government are focused on a lot of things and their missions that don't have anything to do with records requests, but these backlogs keep increasing, the wait times keep increasing, and if senior leaders don't necessarily care or aren't making it a priority, then the rest of the agency won't either.
And frankly, if a couple of things get out to a member of the public that the agency didn't want to, in the long run, it's not that big a deal, folks, unless it's military secret or something.
That's right. And there's processes in place to make sure that, only things that should get out, according to the law, do get out. And there's a whole other conversation to be had about how much information is redacted in many FOIA requests. But just dealing with the pure processing of these requests is something that I think the FOIA Advisory Committee, at least, is really pushing on this year.
Federal News Network's Justin Doubleday, thanks so much.
Thank you, Tom.
And be sure to check out his story at federalnewsnetwork.com.